Today we're going to be talking about the absolute best and worst chest exercises of all time. This is going to be a tier list in real time to help you guys decide which chest exercises you actually want to program. We're going to start from D tier and work our way all the way up to S tier. So hope you guys enjoy. Coaching down below as always. Let's get into it. Starting with D tier, this is really in the stuff that sucks category. A few different things. Hammer strength presses. Any kind of hammer strength press is not designed to offer the chest. The gym I'm at right now does not have them because they suck, which I'm very glad they don't, because essentially they have an ascending resistance profile, meaning they get harder as you get towards the lockout, which is excellent if you're doing it close grip for triceps, but for chest, we want it to be harder in that lengthen to mid-range. So with hammer strength, that's not something you're really gonna wanna be using for your chest. If you have to use a hammer strength for some odd reason, focus only on the sort of first half of it, so that lengthen to mid-range, that's really what you wanna be working in. Definitely don't fight it up to that lockout, because you will just gas yourself. You'll really be working your triceps and not getting much of a chest stimulus there. So if you have a prime machine or something like that, that's the polar opposite, where a prime machine, you can actually adjust it to where it starts hard and then drops off. That's essentially what you want for the chest, that lengthened to mid-range to be the hardest. And then the other sort of D tier thing that I'm not gonna demonstrate here because I hate it, is any kind of like cross fly, like standing cable fly. I think they're terrible. I don't think they're loadable at all. I think if you're a decently strong person, you will not be able to actually stabilize your torso in space while you're actually flying down. Just a dramatic limitation in how much weight you can use, and that's why I never go for those. So those two things, hammer strength, any kind of like standing cable fly, you know, we got two cables here and you're like flying in the middle, I think those are all terrible. And in the C tier, we have either dumbbell press or barbell press, depending on the person. Some people will find that the barbell press is actually a little bit more stable than dumbbells. I personally think so in certain ways for people. And then also some people will find that structurally, they are actually very well acclimated and adapted to the barbell, whereas other people might need dumbbells to actually get sort of a configuration setup. So like I said, you know, obviously with dumbbells, you do have the flexibility of freedom of motion. So some people will find that it actually is more comfy if they're doing, say, like a dumbbell incline press or something along those lines. And then some people obviously for like a more of a flat press will find again that it's comfortable. It allows them to get a nice tuck at the bottom and then press up. But I haven't dumbbell pressed in literally years, and even demonstrating, it reminds me of why I'm so glad I quit doing it, because it is just so unbelievably unstable. It's something where you really have to get good at actually stabilizing these in space. Some people are not particularly good at that, and I see no reason why, if there's a better machine available, an externally stabilized machine, I see no reason why you wouldn't be able to do that and progress better. I just don't see a reason why you would choose to do a dumbbell option, unless of course, again, it was more comfortable for you. You don't want to do stuff that hurts, so don't do things that are painful. You know, if dumbbells are your only option, that's fine. Or if you enjoy it, that's another totally valid option or a valid reason to do it. But once again, you know, doing dumbbells, at least in my opinion, over, you know, machines and things like that, is just, it doesn't make sense in a lot of situations. And training the chest, at least for me, is one of those situations where it doesn't make sense. Biceps, you could say, is a different story. You know, when it comes to chest, I think you should always pretty much be with machines. And in the B tier, we have pec deck. And it's not that I inherently dislike pec deck or think that it's bad. It has a few very unique positives, and I'll show you them now. The main ones being the fact that when you're working here, you're kind of taking the tricep out of the equation. So the main problem with pressing is that a lot of the times you get too much elbow bend, and that elbow bend is actually the tricep flexing and extending, and that simply limits sometimes your tricep output for the rest of the workout, and it just adds a lot of other acting tissue to actually get your arm to horizontally adduct over your body or to work the chest. So the benefit of the pec deck is that obviously it kind of takes that out of the equation. So you're loading the chest more in the shortened range as well in here. So when you're doing a pec deck, you're actually making it very difficult here near the squeeze, which is where the chest is a little bit weaker, but then also is less susceptible to muscle damage. So if you're doing a pec deck like this, we're going to recover from it a little bit easier than doing, say, a press, because the press is always going to be hardest right here in the stretch. Like a lot of times it's significantly harder in the stretch. So if you do a press where it's harder in the shortened position, like hammer strength or something like that, it's just a bad press, because that's where the triceps are taking over once again. So this allows you to hit the chest in the shortened range, take some of the tricep out of it, which is a nice plus. But the reason why it only made it to B tier is, for me, I just don't find it particularly comfortable, and I don't really see much of a reason to do this instead of a press, especially again, if you're doing something like high frequency like I do, where I do an upper lower split, full body, whatever. There's no real need to worry about like how much tricep involvement am I getting, you know, am I getting too much muscle damage? It's not that these things are like not worth thinking about, but when doing something high frequency where you're like smashing your triceps anyway in the same session, it's just not something I really actively think about or worry about. So it's not necessarily that it's bad, it's just that pec deck for me is not something that makes it into A tier, so I never found it comfortable or particularly easy to just gun it all the way down to the wire to failure, whatever. I mean, you can do it. Some people are very good at it. So if you personally prefer it, maybe it goes in A for you, but for me, pec deck is going to to stay in B. And in the A tier, we have none other than the Smith machine press. This is such an incredible option for so many people, especially for upper chest, because I find a lot of people aren't really able to get that like nice tuck with certain machines and things like that. So with the Smith, you might actually be able to configure yourself to where you have a really nice tuck and are able to actually flex the shoulder as you come up, which is one of the actions of the upper chest. So a fantastic option. This is definitely an A tier. The only problem is that it doesn't converge and is a little bit disproportionately hard at the bottom. So reverse banding this puts it in S tier, at least in my opinion, making it just a little bit easier there at the bottom. So again, on a Smith machine press like this, the thing I love about it is that it's super stable. So just like a barbell press, you know, we have our flat bar here, but the thing that makes this amazing is that it's in a fixed path. So you don't have to worry about actually stabilizing it in space, which is what makes this such an incredible machine and puts it for me at the A tier. And in the S tier, we have a flat press or a flat press machine that is actually a good one. So a few things to look for, and this is gonna be your best option for chest. This beats out barbell, it beats out dumbbell, beats out literally everything. And the things you're gonna wanna be looking for here are a few things. A bias towards the lengthened to mid position. So you don't want it to be hardest up here. You don't want it to be hardest near the lockout, because that's not really where your chest is working. That's a lot on the triceps, front delts, and things like that, because that's where they have more leverage to produce force. So if you look at a good machine like this, ideally, and this Nautilus leverage is probably like the best you can get. I know a lot of people love this machine. TNF is telling me this is his favorite chest machine of all time. I actually have access to it here at a couple different gyms by me. But basically the idea is that you have a machine like this where it is very hard here and then gets easier as you press up. So it starts off very hard and then it gets easier. And again, the goal is to adduct or pull the arm across your body, across your rib cage. That is one of the functions of the chest. And as you do this motion, whether it be through a press or a pec deck or something like that, that is gonna be the gold. That's where the gold is. And again, this is a machine that is actually biased towards that mid to lengthen position. It's comfortable, you could adjust it. You could even adjust your impingement as well. So for example, if you put it all the way over here on one, my shoulder's gonna be very impinged. I'm not able to press comfortably if I put it on one. So if I'm all the way up here, there's no way that I'm going to be able to comfortably press, because there has to be some level of internal rotation. We don't want that. So what we want to do is find out where we're comfortable, where we have a little bit of space, just a little bit of space. We get it even on both sides, of course. Have a little space, do the little test with your hands. Make sure your wrist and your elbow joint are stacked. And once they're stacked, you just press up. And that is an S tier chest machine, better than anything else there is.